Right, hello guys, my name's Amy, I'm Charlie's mum. So I just thought I'd give this video in a little go. I usually leave this kind of stuff to Dean, but there we go. I thought I'd start by sharing a little bit what Charlie's done at school today, because we were very proud with this one. This is what it says in his book today. Charlie really enjoyed music therapy this morning and did really well with his fine motors. He's getting better at holding pens and glue sticks and did some cutting with push-down scissors. Rebound therapy, which is where he has therapy on a trampoline, and gardening in the afternoon. Charlie had all of his lasagna today, which is very good because sometimes Charlie doesn't always want to eat at school. Half the time it's him being picky with what he will and won't eat, and sometimes he's just having such a good time that he doesn't want to stop and have a rest. But today we ate all of our lunch, so that was a really positive thing. Drawing and colouring is something that Charlie really struggles with. Holding any small instruments can be quite a struggle, as he's hypermobile, so basically he's very flexible and can find holding things like that quite difficult. On a Friday, he has a proud workbook that also comes home with lovely pictures of what he's been doing at school. So we'll share some of those with you. We can't share all of them because some of them have his class friends in. So for them reasons we won't put them online. But we've got some corkers with Charlie head to toe in paint all over the floor, doing some nice cooking, which is marvellous to see. Makes us feel very proud. I thought I'd maybe touch upon what it was like for us last summer, because this summer thankfully has been a lot different. Last summer, oh, I'll brace you, I'm an emotional wreck, so you might see me cry quite a lot in these videos, so just bear with me. Last summer was definitely a difficult one. We were fighting for Charlie to get a statement for school because we felt very strongly that we wouldn't send him to a school without a statement, which basically is just a list of his needs, what he's struggling with, and the school have to follow Charlie on that lead. So whatever it says in there, it goes. So that was very important for us. It's always a 50-50 chance of whether you're going to get it or not, depending on how severe the child's needs are. So the first round of the panel, we had to gather evidence, and that was from everyone included in Charlie. So it'd be his PSA worker, paediatricians, you name it, everybody. Just writing about Charlie's struggles and if they felt that this statement would benefit Charlie in his education. So thankfully, that all went well and we passed through that one quite quickly. So because we'd successfully got through the first round, it meant that Charlie had a clinical psychologist come out to his nursery to assess him, and he had to write a big report. He was called Derek and he was absolutely smashing, thankfully, so that was good. He felt that Charlie definitely needed a statement and could possibly do with 2 teaching assistants to help encourage him along the way. And then we had to go into a panel again, gathering more evidence, which went okay, but his paediatrician let him down a little bit. They'd sent him the wrong paperwork, so he had to do it again. But thankfully, after doing some tracking down and having a good word with him, we got him to do that and send it off just in a nick of time, as the last panel was just one day before the kids broke up from holidays for the summer. So we got the phone call to say that Charlie was successful, so that was very exciting news. That was a big weight lifted from our shoulders, definitely. Then for the first 4 weeks of summer, because Charlie had been at nursery for a year previous, Charlie struggled quite a lot because his routine was just so out of place. It was just more of a free flow, let's have some fun, which Charlie actually really struggles with quite a lot. So for the first 4 weeks, every day, all day, he screamed the house down, which was very stressful. We don't like to see him like that, but there wasn't a great deal we could do about his routine. So our children's centre actually helped us, and he went to a fun club for the last 2 weeks, just for one day each week. But that's tiny break in Charlie's routine made all of the difference, so we had a good 2 weeks that summer. And then also that summer, which was last summer, was when Charlie had his assessment for autism. So that was a very, very scary time. But thankfully we got there, which is what we needed. But the day come when we were getting the call for them to confirm to us if Charlie had been diagnosed. So I was like a cat on a hot tin roof all day, and I'd missed the call while we were shopping. So after trying to get hold of them, they'd actually closed. So I was straight on the phone the next morning from 8 o'clock trying, which we were actually on a school trip with the children's centre that day to Playdale Farm. So I was hoping I'd get them before we went, just for the pure fact that we just wanted to be at home when we received that news. Because even though we were waiting for it and we were hoping that they could confirm, obviously it's quite a personal moment to go through, so we just wanted to have that together with Charlie. But as always, we forgot something from the picnic, so Dean had to go to the coat with Charlie. So I kept ringing and finally got through while Dean was still out as well. And they don't normally do it over the phone, but because they knew how strongly we felt that Charlie had autism, they were allowed to do this in these circumstances. So I just broke down, half relief, pure relief, thinking finally, now he's got his diagnosis, we can get Charlie the help that he's so desperately needing to be able to learn and to thrive. And then I had to ring Dean, so he'd had a little breakdown in town, so he'd had a good cry. And then went and faced the world on this adventure, on this trip, which Charlie absolutely hated. He couldn't cope with it, he didn't like it at all. And because we were on a trip, it wasn't just as easy as coming back home. So that was a rather emotional day. And then the next one we had to jump through is we finally got him into the place we wanted at his special needs school over in Scarborough, which is absolutely fantastic. And then we were worrying, more so me, because I'm just a big worrier, of how Charlie would cope being in Scarborough, because obviously we're in Whitby and that's about 20 miles away. But for the first week we travelled to and from school with Charlie in his transport that was arranged through his statement. And we were very excited but also very nervous to take him on his first day. But we took him through the school, which we'd taken him to look at in the summer holidays so he could have a feel of the place and he knew where he was going. We took him down to his classroom door and his teacher Alison had come out and said, "Come on Charlie, let's come in." And I went to say, "Bye Charlie," and he just took his teacher's hand and was straight in the door. He couldn't wait to get in. And normally Charlie in a foreign place, that would have been a very scary and quite traumatic thing for him. But he loved it, and he'd had a brilliant first day at school, and we've had brilliant days ever since. We've not had a day when he's been upset there or he's wanted to come home. He's just settled straight in. His class is only small. When he started, there was just 6 little boys, including Charlie. And we'd had pictures of those little boys sent home so that we could show Charlie throughout the holidays and explain to him these were the people who were going to be in his class and these were his teachers. And the pictures of his classroom, which was fantastic visually, that really helped Charlie because he's very much a visual learner. With him not being able to speak, it's quite hard sometimes to gauge what Charlie's understanding what you're saying because he can't respond verbally back to us. So he's doing a lot of learning with pictures, which leads me on saying he's started learning with PECs at school to communicate. PECs is basically little picture cards, the same size as probably about this picture of Charlie on his workbook. So he has a picture of his carrot snacks that he likes to take to school because he doesn't eat fruit, so he has to take his own. And there's also a picture of a toilet with like a little doll's house toilet stuck next to it to just reinforce it for Charlie. A picture of outside and a picture of a fork for when he's having his dinner. And also a picture of the dark room, which Charlie enjoys very much at school. It's all very nice and sensory for him. Charlie's actually started to use those cards now, and we're in his 2nd year at the academy where he's at the moment. So the day's school book come home, which is one of these, just a small one, and it tells us what Charlie's done every day, and then we can write comments back. But the day I come home, and it was amazing. Charlie had been in his classroom. At first, Charlie didn't want to be in his classroom setting. He found it very stressful, so he's actually had a desk in the corridor, and one of his teachers worked with him until he felt ready to come into the classroom. And he'd come into the classroom that day, and he'd already been exploring his PECs previous to this, and he'd taken his carrot sticks card over to his teacher to request to have some snack, which was brilliant. So his teacher just gave him one out of the packet as opposed to the whole packet, and Charlie ate that up, and then 5 more times he used the card to request that he'd like another. And this was the first time that Charlie had really communicated properly with anybody before. So that come home, I'd read it and said, Dean, you know, you have to come and see this. And we'd read it, and Charlie's face just lit up. And you could see how proud we were of him. And I think I cried for about 3 days. I just couldn't stop. I was just so excited. So like when his book come home today, and it said, you know, that he's getting really good with holding his pens and his glue sticks, and the fact that he'd independently use some of these scissors to cut. To most people who have atypical children, that doesn't sound like much of a big deal. You'd probably give them a bit of praise, but not overly. Whereas with Charlie, all these small steps are such massive leaps. So every little step, we jump around our living room, we scream from the rooftops, we tell everybody who walks past the house. We go to town on the praise, definitely. But the best bit is now Charlie's starting to look proud of himself. When he's done a really good job, he's realising that he's done that before you even have a chance to get in there to give him a praise for it, which is fantastic. His confidence since he started school as well has gone through the roof. He's made friends with one particular little boy in his class who Charlie absolutely adores, who actually come to his party this year. So it was really nice to meet his school friends. And Charlie's starting to come out of the box now. We used to say that it was like Charlie was trapped inside this bubble and nothing could come in and nothing could come out, and to try to get to Charlie was very, very difficult to get him to engage. So to see him breaking out of his bubble and making these connections with his friends is fantastic. Some of the pictures that come home from school are marvellous. I remember the first time they sent a picture home of Charlie sat round the table with his class friends, and we had to go cry at that one as well. Because usually when Charlie was at nursery, we'd see pictures of him. We might see him playing near to other children, but not ever with any children. He wouldn't like to sit and have snack time with them. He'd want to sit in his own chair. So to see him as one of the boys and see him included was absolutely the best thing in the universe to us. We're just proud of him. Wes couldn't even come close. Definitely for me as well. Like, I was so scared about his future before the statement, before the diagnosis, before all of the things that are happening at the moment. I was petrified. I thought, Charlie's just going to be stuck here like this, and I don't know when things are going to be better. I can't tell him when things are going to happen, and I just felt completely helpless and thought, I don't know how to get this help, and I can't get it until that diagnosis has been put in place. Until then, he's not going to get any speech and language therapy. We were on a waiting list for 3 years for that, which was quite terrible. Any kind of therapy he needed, like he's getting music therapy in school. He has dark and light rooms with lots of sensory equipment, which is fantastic for Charlie. None of that would start until they'd stuck that label onto Charlie and said, yes, he's autistic. So it's been very exciting since that moment, and Charlie's excelling brilliantly. To anybody else reading his book, they think, oh, my kids could do that a long time ago. But to Charlie to do these is amazing, and to think how far we are from a year ago from now, where Charlie was just sewn into one thing and you couldn't gauge his concentration. You just have to constantly spin and be stuck to watching cartoons because nothing else seemed to make him happy. It was horrendous. But now he's comes home from school wanting lovely cuddles, which Charlie never used to really cuddle. He didn't really like to be touched quite a few years ago. He found it quite traumatic. And I remember one of the first CAF meetings we'd had with his PSAs who were trying to help us along our journey. And they'd said to me, what is it you want for Charlie? And I said, I want him to be happy. I just want my little boy to be happy. And I just want to be able to give my little boy a hug.